Hello, everyone. I know it's been a while since I made a video, but I wanted to share this post from Mel this morning. You somehow believed they used adenoviruses that never existed to make vaccines that would either prevent a virus with spikes from attaching to your tissues or shut it down, knowing your Epstein Borreliosis, AIDS, infinite antigen variation they gave you for all those decades. They dazzle you with the lab's ability to stretch gain or loss of function. If it wasn't pathetic enough, shooting swindle flu vax up your noses and trying interferon to shut it down would be hilarious, but someday you won't be laughing. And she links this Epstein-Barr Epstein-Barr virus infection is prevalent in the adenoid and palatine tonsils in adults. Epstein-Barr is associated with pathogenesis of several diseases in both adults and children. However, there have been no reports on the prevalence and amount of Epstein-Barr virus in the adenoids of adults. Thus, it's important to investigate these adenoids and tonsils of adults and children. In this study, 67 patients who underwent tonsillectomy or adenotonsillectomy were included and divided into two groups: adults aged 16 and children under 16. So patients' adenoid and tonsil tissues were analyzed using quantitative polymerase chain reaction for Epstein-Barr virus DNA. Epstein-Barr virus was detected in 26 adenoids, or 74%, and 25 tonsils among the adult group, 71%, and was detected 66% adenoids and 20 tonsils in the child group, 63%. There was no significant difference in Epstein-Barr virus DNA prevalence in the adenoid and tonsils for each group. However, there was a significant correlation between Epstein-Barr virus DNA load in the adenoids and tonsils in the same individual in both groups. In conclusion, Epstein-Barr virus infection is prevalent in the adenoid and tonsils in adults and children, and these results indicate that Epstein-Barr virus continually reside in the narrow pharyngeal region after primary infection and may develop several diseases. So, and we're told that something like, and I've seen different from 90 to 95% of people are infected with Epstein-Barr virus, and the problem is it lays behind the scene dormant for many years until something triggers it, activates it. So many people don't even know. Now, all the monsters have ever given anything in vaccines is the real cause of AIDS and cancer. Gamma herpes infection of human neuronal cells. Gamma herpes viruses, human herpes 4, HHV4 and HHV8, are two prominent members of the herpes virus families associated with a number of human cancers. HHV4, also known as Epstein-Barr virus, a ubiquitous gamma herpes virus prevalent in 90 to 95% of the human population, is clinically associated with various neurological diseases such as primary central nervous system lymphoma, multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's disease, cerebellar ataxia, and encephalitis. However, the possibility that Epstein-Barr virus and Kaposi sarcomas-associated herpes virus, KSHV, can directly infect neurons has been largely overlooked. This study has for the first time characterized Epstein-Barr virus infection in neuronal cells backgrounds by using the SHSY neuroblastoma cell line, teratocarcinoma, enteroneurons, and primary human fetal neurons. Furthermore, we've demonstrated that KSHV infection of neuronal SHSY5Y cells. These neuronal cells were infected with green fluorescent protein expressing recombinant Epstein-Barr virus or Kaposi's sarcoma herpes virus. Microscopy, genetic analysis, immunofluorescence, and Western blot analysis for specific viral antigens supported and validated the infection of these cells by Epstein-Barr virus and showed Kaposi's and showed that the infection was efficient and productive. Progeny virus produced from infected neuronal cells efficiently infected fresh neuronal cells as well as peripheral blood mononuclear cells. Furthermore, acyclovir was effective at inhibiting the production of virus from neuronal cells similar to lymphoblastoid cell lines. This suggests active lytic replication in infected neurons in vitro. These studies represent a potential new in vitro model of Epstein-Barr. Now, Mel says there's no such thing as virus. They're infinite antigenic variations. They're morphological forms of bacteria. They're a lytic form of bacteria. Let's see. It's working great since 1930. More people are dying before 50 than ever before. You pay into Social Security and you never get to spend it. Interesting, because I watched the recent David Martin video where he talked about the insurance companies and how they've been funding all of this. You know, most people don't talk about the insurance companies. So we all assume it's the pharmaceutical companies. And he said, no, it's been the insurance companies funding this all along, just like they funded the, came up with a 30-year mortgage to make sure that people, they repossess the house right before someone finished paying it off. Epstein-Barr virus is prevalent in the adenoid and tonsils. We just read that a while ago. And they've been hitting Mel with spam lately, trying to prevent her from sharing these links, which she has been doing consistently for years. Here you go. Here, this is 4 years ago. Vaccines safe and effective, knowing they couldn't kill Spirochetes prion seed with even the highest dose gamma radiation. Only treat with mercury and other heavy metals to inhibit. So heavy metals are good. Someone asked, she says, they put the metals in vaccine to inhibit the stealth from growing in the vial. Nothing more. Some people used mercury to treat Spirochetal disease, as well as colloidal silver, because they attach to the fungal slime, but it cannot kill all of it. Somebody says, I read your post and links, Mel, but it blows me away too. I take time to read on and off, but Mel, really, you got some mind exploding info. I wished everyone could read it, but most aren't going to. They will when their AIDS infected colony bee collapse bees are all dead. Of course, by then you will all serve the master. Jill Larkin asked her, why do they want the stealth growth inhibited inside the vial? Because they can't sell fungal infected vials, or we would all look like we had our steroid vial lawsuits. That sickens immediately. So then she links here about secretions. So let me open this up. The fungal slime is stealth secretions. The exosomes are released and transported between neurons and glial in the nervous system, having a broad impact on nerve development, activation, and regeneration. Accumulating evidence suggests that the exosomes are attributed to the pathogenesis of several neurodegenerative diseases such as prion disease, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, as well as aging, in which the exosomes lack the capacity for cellular self-repair and spread their enclosed pathological agents among neurons. Exosomes, gummy blebs, tau, and your bad cholesterol or lipids. She says, see, folks, you're not allowed to really be sick. They don't have to tell you what's inside your chronically infected Epstein Borreliosis AIDS infected cells. And again, people don't realize they already have Epstein-Barr. So anything, and they installed this in us long ago. As I said, 90 to 95% of people have Epstein-Barr, and they got it when they were children. And that's just one of the herpes. And the thing is she's saying that herpes are not virus. They're spirochetal AIDS. And one of its infinite variations that adapts to the host DNA and based on your HLA, it just continues morphing into these different forms. So per se, I don't buy the whole viruses don't exist per se as the average, they're pushing it among these people like Kaufman. It's just exosomes. I don't agree with these people, but what I do agree with is we've been lied to about what viruses are. If they're morphological forms of bacteria and not a different entity in and of themselves. Okay. Epstein-Barr virus hides. So again, people don't know they have it because their immune system is turned off, or this thing is incorporated into it. It hides in the immune system. Scientists uncover how Epstein-Barr virus hides. We've always known that Epstein-Barr virus maintains some of its proteins at such a low level that our immune system doesn't kick in to destroy the virus. Effectively, the virus flies below our immunity's radar. What this study has found is exactly how that process works, how a particular viral protein known as EBNA maintains a careful balance by limiting its own synthesis levels. It means the virus remains alive while eluding our immune cells. Epstein-Barr virus infects more than 90% of the world's population and is linked to a number of cancers, including Burkitt's lymphoma, naropharyngeal carcinoma, and Hodgkin's lymphoma. There are currently no vaccines to prevent Epstein-Barr virus and other herpes-associated cancers. There is no vaccine that is anything except infectious. Now, there's probably no way in heck that they're going to allow this to stay up. I'll get... anyways, I'm going to continue to read some of this stuff. And we'll see. Hopefully, I can get this information out to you. Even though they knew you were chronically infected, everyone wants a job, right? So here we go with Lyme. Net, you're up. Lipopolysaccharide-induced conversion of recombinant prion protein. We discovered the lipopolysaccharide component of a gram-negative bacterial membranes interacts with recombinant prion proteins and induces conversion of an isoform richer in B sheet at a near physiological conditions as long as the LPS concentration remains above critical micelle concentration. What the people have been saying is proven over and over. The real cause of AIDS immune suppression they gave us in vaccines. Why all vaccines are infective? Because you're already infected with immune suppressing stealth of Epstein Borreliosis and so-called normal prion protein. Extensive diversity of prion strains is defined by differential chaperone interactions and amyloidogenic regions. Henrietta Lacks immortal HeLa cells, the turd in the punch bowl, used for all vaccines for decades, had syphilis, and they knew spirochetal prion proteins could not be killed, as testified before Congress. The coexistence of ribbon and helical fibrils originating from human islet amyloid. I would have to look that one up. The HIAPP 2229. I'm sorry. Let's see. It is amyloid. Okay, human islet amyloid polypeptide involved in type 2 diabetes. Okay, that's one of the links that she consistently shares. So I know it's extremely important that people understand that. It's revealed by quantitative nanomechanical atomic force microscopy, uncontrolled misfolding of proteins leading to the formation of amyloid deposits is associated with more than 40 types of diseases. So when the CDC tries to tell you the state of our limeades nation, you can tell them you already know. Well, the CDC admitted spirochetal disease causes chronic symptoms in their lecture on persistence and called it immunomodulatory complex or some such baloney. Let's take a look at the history of spirochetal disease and what they knew. Ultrastructure of amyloid fibrils in Alzheimer's disease and Down syndrome. Amyloid fibrils in brains in patients with Alzheimer's disease and Down syndrome were examined by light and electron microscopy. In addition, replicas of amyloid fibrils produced by a quick freezing method from the brain of a patient with Down syndrome were examined by electron microscopy. The amyloid fibrils were shown to consist of hollow rods. They were composed of filaments arranged as a tightly coiled helix, each turn of which consisted of 5 globular subunits. The structure appeared to be similar to the prion filament observed in Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. The possibility, therefore, arises that amyloid fibrils in Alzheimer's disease and Down syndrome may be related to the transmissible agents responsible for the diseases such as CJD, Kuru, and GSS. So let's look at that. Okay, that's exactly what I just read. They knew that Down's, Alzheimer's, and autism was caused by spirochetal disease in 1985 and did nothing to save lives. Hollow rods caused by spirochetal disease, they were too criminal to treat or tell the truth. Let's see if this one opens. Cell wall deficient BB, Borrelia burgdorferi, and cystic. Remnants of a cell wall deficient, cystic forms. It looks like a little ball, a little round circle. Cell wall deficient forms. Okay, this is from Alan McDonald. Many will not remember in the early AIDS days when it was originally called AIDS psychosis, the AIDS dementia complex. Of 70 autopsy patients with the acquired immune deficiency syndrome, 46 suffered progressive dementia that was frequently accompanied by motor and behavioral dysfunction. Impaired memory and concentration with psychomotor slowing represented the most common early presentation of this disorder, but in nearly one half of the patients, either motor or behavioral changes predominated. Early motor deficits commonly included ataxia, leg weakness, tremor, and loss of fine motor coordination, while behavioral disturbances were manifested both commonly as apathy or withdrawal, but occasionally as a frank organic psychosis. The course of the disease was steadily progressive in most patients and at times was punctuated by an abrupt acceleration. However, in 20% of patients, a more protracted indolent course was observed. In the most advanced stage of this disease, patients exhibited stereotyped picture of severe dementia, mutism, incontinence, paraplegia, and in some cases, myoclonus. The high incidence and unique clinical presentation of this AIDS dementia complex is consistent with the emerging concept that this complication is due to direct brain infection by the retrovirus that causes AIDS. So the spirochetal AIDS. And who is the short little man that was involved in the beginning, from the beginning, many years ago with this whole AIDS thing? I'll leave that for you to figure out. I don't even want to say the fraud's name. Nor do they remember it in the 8,000 U.S. soldiers' suicides, with over 2,000 this year alone. Now, this was, I think, in 2013. I could be wrong. They gave us a make-believe world of psych disease that never existed, denying us the fact that over 85% of our body is loaded with assorted bacteria, and never once offering you evidence of how those antigens used in the name of protection behaved in all the infections they knew we had already, or in those they gave us for decades. So all these things are calling viruses and injecting into us are morphological forms of bacteria, spirochetal AIDS. So the misfolding of proteins, again, they did not ever do a study to see how all of these things behaved inside of us. Think about the amount of vaccines that children are getting today. There was never once a study done to account for what happens when you inject a child with multiple vaccines. I mean, you go to the doctor, your child can be sick, and you take them to the doctor. They're running a fever, and you're worried. What is the first thing the doctor wants to do? Oh, your child is behind on his vaccines. Oh, you need 6 vaccines a day, and they'll inject them and send them home. And then when the child drops dead, or turns into, ends up with autism or any number of other things, they will never admit that it had anything to do with the vaccines, because the brainwashing goes so deep and they just can't think for themselves anymore. I don't really have any respect for people who've been brainwashed just enough to never question authority and to not be able to put 2 and 2 together, and that are owned by the pharmaceutical companies. Okay. Okay. They gave us some, all right, I did that already. Okay, they refused to treat soldiers' psych because they caused, by adding infectious junk DNA, activating latent infections, just as they refused to treat your autism kids or those suffering cataracts, gastritis, or from helicoil bacterial symptoms and cancer. So all of these different diseases, the thing is, as Patrick says, he has a book, Same Pig, Different Lipstick. They've come up with all of these different names for what amounts to being the same disease, but because they've, so I don't disagree that the germ theory is wrong. Uh, yeah, I mean, it's just that a theory that one individual thing causes all this, uh, uh, and that we have all these different things. No, we have Epstein Borreliosis AIDS with its infinite antigen variation. Okay, let me go on. In 1965, they knew all spirochetal disease was simply relapsing fever. Borrelia, human relapsing fever, and parasite vector host relationships. In 1965, American Society for Microbiology. So you cannot trust anything coming from the CDC, the FDA, or any of the other alphabet agencies. Uh, we're basically at war, and most people don't know we're at war. And it's silent weapons for a quiet war. And they've been at this for much longer than many of us realize. Borrelia, pathogenic to man, are causative agents of relapsing fever, and its varieties known as tick fever. Carapata, Kimpuchu, I'm probably butchering these words, Gregoria, bilious typhoid, foul nest fever, and vagabond fever. Relapsing fevers may be divided into louse-borne, which is usually epidemic, and tick-borne, which is mostly endemic. Exceptions, however, occur, and human Borrelia infections are or were seen all over the world, except in Australia, New Zealand, and Oceania. Only one imported case was recorded in that area. Well, I'm sure they fixed that by now. The appearance of louse-borne Borrelia in infections is usually connected with crowding, poor housing, undernourishment, lack of cleanliness, and little change of clothing, as is the rule during disasters like war, fire, earthquake, flood, and famine. Europe, Asia, Africa suffered from extensive louse-borne Borrelia infections, which originated near Fezzan during and shortly after World War I and World War II. Tick-borne Borrelia infections remain mostly restricted to the vicinity in which the Ornithosaurus lives and do not spread further than the infected arthropod host is moving. The contacts of ticks with man are few, thus human infection rate is low. Well, we know that that's not true anymore. But so all this from, let me go back to this post from today. All they've given you in testing is activation of what they knew you already had. The monsters refuse to tell you what they already gave you for decades. So let's open up this link and see. Shedding dynamics of Epstein-Barr virus. They always knew your Epstein Borreliosis AIDS infinite antigen variation activated with an immune response and induced to grow cancer in immune suppression that they caused. Now, it's impossible to eradicate the prevalence of Epstein-Barr virus-related malignancies and other pathologies without preventing viral shedding. So, all these people that ran right out and got jabbed. Epstein-Barr virus is one of the ubiquitous viral carcinogens found in humans and successfully infects more than 90% of the world population. The spectrum of Epstein-Barr virus-related pathology ranges from asymptomatic primary infection to grade B and T-cell malignancies. Epstein-Barr triggers lymphoproliferative disorders and allogenic stem cell transplantation, which contributes to higher mortality rates. Although the transmission of Epstein-Barr virus primarily occurs in an infected host to a naive host through viral shedding from the oropharynx, increasing evidence points to considerable amount of shedding in other anatomical sites such as cervix, anal mucosa, breast milk, and respiratory tract. It's impossible to eradicate the prevalence of Epstein-Barr virus-related malignancies and other pathologies without preventing viral shedding. However, a detailed analysis of the multifaceted nature of Epstein-Barr virus shedding is not available in the literature. Thus, this review focuses on elucidating the key elements in the shedding dynamics of this carcinogenic virus. So I'm going to stop right here. I'll be really surprised if I'm able to even upload and post this video. But if you stuck with me this long, I appreciate it. Thanks for listening.